All right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Dream Talk. This is episode number 19. I'm joined by Marius today. He's been on the show before. We actually talked about NBA talk with John, but John, yeah, I know he's not able to attend tonight. He's actually on vacation, but I'm glad to sit down and have this talk with you, Marius. How are you doing?
Well, thank you for having me on again. It's great to actually be able to talk with you. Looking forward for tonight, and to answer your question, it's been great. Uh, we've had an exciting weekend. We look forward to what's upcoming.
Yep, for sure. And obviously, right now, the Olympics is going on. I've been watching it a little bit since last Friday when it started. Can you just touch upon the Dream Games? I know that's something that you guys created this summer with the Du Bois Dream. Can you just touch on what it is? Because obviously, sports, we might just think about basketball, but sports can cover, football, soccer, baseball, badminton. There's so many sports out there, but can you just touch on that?
Yeah. Well, the idea of the Dream Games was thinking that because we're the Dubo Dream, we're based on mostly basketball, but not there's so many different sports. Just look at the Olympics themselves. There's 40 sports just in itself, and they're not including all these other little smaller sports that haven't gone international recognition because they're not big. So our idea was to be able to create an event in which we have a various number of sports that we could potentially do here in Dubois and have and have a lot of kids and even adults come out to be able to engage in these sports to give them their own day of
Mm-hmm.
playing something that isn't basketball or give them something to engage with the dream because not everyone's interested in basketball, and then that would transition to help them getting interested in the dream. And for this first iteration we went with like more recreational games, but
Mm-hmm.
it was to demonstrate and see. But we saw that there was interest, and we're actually hoping, based off that idea and concept I described, to actually grow it bigger and actually have actual events like athletics, of course basketball, and other different sports to give the locals around here and people in the surrounding area a day where they can compete and show off their talent in a sport that they may like, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily basketball, but give them something to actually compete in and make those friendships, because that's something important about sports. You make those friendships and those can be life lasting.
Yep. And like one thing I actually did like just talking about the dream games is that you want to help kids find their passion. It might not be basketball, it might be another sport, or even if kids might not decide to play sports, for their career. Just finding your passion is huge. So you guys creating this opportunity for a lot of different activities is very important. I feel like. But now I kind of want to touch on you guys were down here in Philadelphia and you guys had the 3-on-3 event. Can you just touch on how was that event? What was the competition like? Who did you guys have play for the Dream? And, what did you like about the event?
Of course. Just for clarification, the USA Basketball, I mean Red Bull advertises Philadelphia, but we were in Hatboro, so
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of funny. Actually, I say, "Oh, Philadelphia, we're going to Hatboro." But the competition actually was because I didn't originally attend the Columbus one. Esther and Sandra and Albert did, along with Tony and Cody. Um, and so it was a different experience, and what the impression was that the competition was actually better at the Philadelphia competition, which was expected. And also they had more consistency in terms of their competition level. Like, for example, one of the teams they played, I think I remember, we had there was an actual Temple basketball player on on the team, and it was one of the first games. Um and and even that was just one highlight. There are other teams who had people who literally came from different regions, but they were well well known in their own accord. So they got consistent competition, and they thought it was a great experience. Now, in terms of the facility, to be perfectly honest, um, Albert even mentioned that the one in Columbus was better. This one seemed more like a 90s gym, even though it had multiple courts. It didn't seem like what you would expect of a competition sponsored by USA Basketball and Red Bull, and then saying it's going to be in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
But it was still
yeah.
a great competition nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you guys were participating in this event. What was, I would say, like your seeding? Did you guys finish pretty strong? Did you guys start off strong? Did you guys win most of the games, or was kind of like an even, it's like a split series throughout the day?
Well, I'm gonna tell you full honestly, our record was 1-3 at the end of the day. All teams in the pool, only 17 teams appeared, so there were four pools, one with a fifth. All 16 teams would qualify into the basically Sweet 16 as they called it. They were doing that type of a similar March Madness. And the pool with the fifth team would lose its lowest team. So we were one of the pools with only four teams, so we automatically advanced irrespective of the record. But we lost in our first game after the pool play. Again, as I said, we did 1-3. But the thing is, we played against tough competitions. For example, one match we lost on this player who we nicknamed Mr. Green Shoes Man. He would literally, it was very, because I was doing scouting on the sidelines for the guys, and I said he's gonna, after 2 or 3 dribble, he wants to do a pull-up jumper. He really doesn't want to drive. He was literally hitting pull-up jumpers on us consistently, and then for a game winner, when it was tied with like 2 seconds left, he pulled up and shot and won the game for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was very, very competitive. But Albert in the game, I think the game prior to the game after, I believe it was the game after, he also hit a game winner.
All right.
So Albert got inspired. So it was fun. It really was competitive, and across the board, as I said, there was consistent competition. For example, we saw, I think, one of the Temple basketball players on the team.
Yeah, if it's not broke, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it was a great experience.
yep, for sure. And now I want to kind of transition for people that are tuned in. Obviously, we have the NBA draft behind us. That'll be happening this Thursday in Brooklyn, New York. It's been, hosted there every year, except this past, the last draft, it was virtual due to COVID, I believe. But I just want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the draft, and who do you think is going to go number one?
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting draft because of the talent. It's been said that this draft class is pretty loaded, and I happen to agree. I mean, for example, Jalen Suggs is being passed around. He's like dropping from. At first, he was sitting ranked number 3. Now he's trending between 4 to 6, or some people even put him at 7. One
Mm-hmm.
one mock draft I saw a long time ago said he was 10. But
Mm.
that's the thing. This draft is so loaded that even a star such as him in college basketball for Gonzaga is like ranging in the top 10. So it's a pretty loaded draft class. And I think it will be interesting. And to answer your first question, I believe it's going to be Cade Cunningham because of
Mm.
his ability and skill set. Uh, People have compared him to Luka Doncic. He isn't Luka, but you could see somewhat similarities. But his skill set and what he can do, I think, is going to be basically uh, a real, basically a big win for whoever drafts him. Whoever will
Yeah.
draft him is going to have a franchise player because he's very talented. He showed that playing at OSU and during March Madness, and he's got a lot of room to develop. So I think he's going to be the consensus, and that's what has been even saying across multiple mock drafts. He's the consensus number one, despite
Yeah.
Jalen Green's desire to be number one.
Yeah, I'm actually right now. I'm actually looking at NBADraftRoom.com. Obviously, there's websites like CBS and stuff, a lot of mock drafts. But I know looking at it, it says Cade Cunningham, number one, 6'8", 220 out of Oklahoma State. They're comparing him to Doncic. I'm looking at the scouting report right now, and he has as a high caliber player. He has all the tools to be a superstar player. And yeah, it's interesting watching the draft because they always, after the person gets drafted, they have a comparison player. So it'll be interesting to see who they compare him with. But I know right now, like I said, they have number 2, Jalen Green. He played in the G League. Number 3 is Evan Mobley. He's a center out of USC. They actually put Jalen Suggs at 4, going to the Raptors, 6'4", 198. So it'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. I do have to say, for number 4 pick, that's a pretty good number 4 pick in Jalen Suggs, because if you look at him prior to Gonzaga and then at Gonzaga, he showed a lot of leadership in what he did. He's also got he's got pretty good upside on him.
Hmm.
And yes, he wasn't the most distributive point guard, but he's got good court vision. He really pushes the ball. He hustles, plays. He's got good defensive versatility, and he's only going to improve. And then also his leadership. Like, for
Hmm.
example, in high school, he was, as in his state, he was Mr. Basketball, but he was also Mr. Football because he played football as well. But so
Yeah.
and he led them to multiple state championships on both in
Hmm.
both sports. So that
Yeah.
leadership is going to be beneficial for the Houston Rockets, who are an organization with a storied history, and they'd want someone who can be their franchise player. And so for a number 4 pick, that's a pretty good number 4 pick.
Yeah, because I still remember watching the playoffs NCAA and Jalen Suggs. They played UCLA. My fault. And he blocked the person trying to dunk the ball. He took the ball, led the fast break, and scored. I think it was the game winner or
Yeah.
something like that. It might have been the
Well,
same exact play.
it might have been the same exact play, because I remember watching that match, and my friend, who's a Gonzaga actual alumni, he just graduated a year ago, and he was watching, and when he hit that shot, he went ballistic. So because he knew
Yeah.
Jalen Suggs could do it, and during that moment, I'm not lying. I was saying, I hope he's, because I'm a Carolina guy. I said, I hope he's channeling his inner Marcus Page and hits a game winner like Page did in 2016 against Villanova.
Yeah. No, that
He,
was a very, very impressive game for him. And unfortunately, Gonzaga didn't win. They lost to Baylor, but
yeah.
Baylor was like pretty stacked.
Oh yeah, they were stacked with their guards, and one of their guards in the in I even in the mock draft, you're looking at the scouting report. One of their picks, I think, is going number 15 or 14, but that was that was a stacked team. They got some
Hmm.
talented players going to the NBA who will have some very good upside.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. This draft will be interesting. Hopefully, all I know before we transition is hopefully the Sixers get someone good because obviously we drafted Mikal Bridges, who was just played in the NBA Finals, and we got rid of we traded a lot of good players. I would say we get rid of them too early. So hopefully the Sixers do the right thing and get a reasonable player this year.
Yeah, or package it in a trade, because, for example, I read the Sacramento Kings are looking to be aggressive. They might not draft in place of that. They might just trade their picks, because this is a loaded draft class, to get a good player to put on their core. So I think the 76ers could potentially do something else, because they were a playoff team, so their pick's going to be on the lower end. They could
Yeah.
maybe decide to trade a player that they desire along with a pick to get something very useful to them, because they want to go for a championship.
Hmm. Yep. And speaking about championships, for everybody that's watching, the NBA Finals just wrapped up. I believe it was last Tuesday, a week from today, because Game 7 would have been on that
The
Thursday.
22nd. Yeah.
Yeah, so they wrapped up, I believe, last Monday or Tuesday. And obviously, Giannis, he had one of the most historic games. I believe he had 50 points, 5 blocks, I think at least 10 rebounds, something along that stat line.
That was a monster of a game.
So yeah, my question was, do you believe that was the most? I wouldn't say the most, but was that probably the most incredible closeout game you've ever seen in finals history?
For a team built the way it was for the Bucks, I would say yes, because if you look at the Bucks, if you take Giannis away, they're still a good team. Are they a
Mm-hmm.
championship level team? I wouldn't say
Mm-hmm.
so. They're a playoff team. But
Mm-hmm.
with Giannis, that becomes a very strong team, just because it's Giannis and he can do so much. Yes, he has to develop his shooting form from mid range and especially 3-point range to spread the floor more. But he's a hard worker, and I don't doubt he's going to work hard at getting that. But for that type of team, the way it was built, I think that was a very great, one of the best performances I've seen for a team that's literally just has one star, one
Mm-hmm.
exclusive superstar on their team.
Yeah, and the funny
Because
thing is, I was now you can continue real quick.
uh, because throughout the game, in Game 6, he wanted it. You could see how much he wanted that win. He wanted that championship, and he played that way. with that
Hmm.
historic performance.
Hmm. Yeah, the one thing I can say about Giannis, he has like obviously a huge thing he needs to work on, but he didn't let it get to him. Like in Phoenix, everybody, the whole playoffs, it was mentioned, all the analysts said it. They were counting one, two, three. If I was at
Even Money Man with the $100 bills.
I'm not gonna lie, if I was in his shoes, I would be stressed. But the thing is, like when it mattered most, when it came to game six, what was it? He was, I want to say, 17 out of 19 or 16 out of 18 from the foul line. Like he
Yeah,
shot 89, 90% from the foul line closeout game. Like he knocked down his free throws when it mattered most. So,
and that's what great players can do. They can overcome a challenge they may have to be able to lead a team to victory, and that's what he did.
mm-hmm,
Historically, if you look at his statistic, he's about a 60-70% free throw shooter, which isn't great at all. And I think he'll want to improve on that definitely. But he even said this comment that I believed in myself. I could make my free throws, and I made my free throws,
mm-hmm.
and he did. But
Yeah.
that aspect of how when was said that statement, shows that how committed he was to winning, and those type of players who are that committed are able to do something that you wouldn't believe, because all the analysts would say, oh, he's not going to hit that, like he had a 90% clip of free throws on a high at shooting that many. No, he
Mm-hmm.
wanted it, and he proved it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And now I want to transition because the Suns obviously didn't pull it out. They were up 2-0. They lost four straight. Obviously, that's heartbreaking for CP3. I know one of the commentators, no, yeah, after the game was a post game question. It was not a good question. I know a lot of people saw it. It was saying, Devin Booker, how sorry, or like something along the lines of, how mad are you for Chris right now? And he was like, next question, because obviously it was a tough pill to swallow this series. You're up 2-0. You think you're going to close it out in five, maybe six, but definitely in five. Honestly, I feel like if they would have won it in five, but they didn't get the job done. Do you think CP3 losing this championship hurts his legacy a lot? Him being in question with top five, top 10 PGs all time, or no?
I believe it'll leave a little stain on his legacy. It won't destroy it, because that's what I saw a lot of experts were a lot experts per se, because lots of them do get it wrong, but they were saying that it would ruin his legacy. Some said it didn't, but for those who said it would ruin, I don't think it ruins it. I do think it puts a little stain on him, because this was one of his best chances,
Mm-hmm.
and because if you look at the West, the Lakers got injured. The
Warriors.
Nuggets were basically blown out, basically swept. The Clippers got injured, so it paved the way for them to get into the finals pretty easily. So it does leave a stain on his legacy. It doesn't destroy it, because the fact is he's 36. At 36, you don't expect a player like
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul, especially at a point guard, because with point guards you're looking at they have to their speed and athleticism more than a big, because a big, even when he's not as when he's older, he can still do a lot because he's basically tall. With point
Mm-hmm.
guards, you're smaller, so you have to rely more on your athleticism. But again, players are transitioning. But the point is, he did quite a bit for playing, being a 36-year-old. So I think he still got left in the tank. It's still
Mm-hmm.
a little tarnish on his legacy, because uh, this this was basically, I think, one of his best chances. But I think if the Suns got a do some smart trading, or they retain the players that they need, like Mikal Bridges, you mentioned earlier.
Crowder.
I think, yeah, and Crowder.
Mm-hmm.
If they can retain those players and get some extras, I think they could make a comeback,
Mm-hmm.
because they have a budding superstar in DeAndre Ayton, who's still on a rookie contract. They
Mm-hmm.
have a budding also superstar in Devin Booker, and they still have Chris Paul, who's playing very well for being a 36-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I know they were saying, "Oh, do you think Chris Paul's going to go join LeBron in LA?" Obviously he would take a huge pay cut if he joined, another few superstars. But um, honestly, if I was him, I'd probably stay. And it was kind of like a feud that leads to another question because I watched a clip and it talked about, Harden was like, "Oh, it's easy being 7 foot, running the ball and dunking. It takes no skill." because he was kind of like referring to Giannis. But then Giannis, the post game, he was like, I could go to a super team, do my part, but I'd rather stay here and actually kind of like earn it. Like he said, we did it. So like, I don't know what CP3 is going to do. I feel like he wants to stay in Phoenix. I mean, why would you leave? You have a good coaching system. You have a good front office. You have a good young core. You still have Devin Booker, who's like 24 years old. You have Ayton, and your bench is pretty like, it's good overall. You really can't go wrong. So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to stay in Phoenix. But I feel like he will. Like, I don't feel like he's going to leave. And if he does, I can understand why. I'm not going to be mad at him. But
I would
yeah.
understand why he would leave because he wants to win that championship. It's been alluded to him for so many years. He was on the Clippers during that I'm forgetting Lob City.
Yeah.
Then he went to Houston, and that almost then he failed. Then that failed, and now he's at Phoenix. So he's that championship has eluded him. Getting to the finals, and then this time he actually did it. But it's been that one ring has eluded him for so long. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't blame him, but I think he can do better with the Suns because they have. This is basically a big three in essence because Aiton's still on the rookie contract and he's growing. You can see
Mm-hmm.
from his skill set he's a big and he can shoot the ball pretty well from like short mid range and he can develop even more. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a really efficient post player. He knows the game well. He's very calm. He's not upset about calls. He wants to learn. And same with Devin Booker. And he's,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, he's 24 and he's gonna develop even more. So this is a big three with the leadership and Chris Paul that he imparts onto this team, and they
Mm-hmm.
have that good front office. I think he should stay. And
Mm-hmm.
my one suggestion would be he should opt out and take he should take a pay cut for the Suns. That way they can get a better extra supporting cast for the Suns to reload to have a better team.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're
Yeah.
going to take a pay cut to go on a super team, yeah, you're going to have 3 stars, but you're going to have a weaker supporting cast. With this,
Yeah.
you kind of
Mm-hmm.
have already 2 stars and two upcoming stars in Booker and Ayton who are really good, and then your Chris Paul who's already a star. So that's already a big three right there. All
Yeah.
he has to do is and they got a good supporting cast. So
Mm-hmm.
if he takes a pay cut, I'm not saying take a beyond drastic, but I would say take 20 million per season. That way they
Mm-hmm.
have more to give to a even better to build that better supporting cast, and I think they could come back and be one of
Yeah.
the favorites in the West.
Yeah. Yeah. They're right there. They're like right on the doorstep. So it'll be interesting to see. And now I'm going to transition to one last question before we wrap it up. What are your thoughts on next season? Obviously, the season will hopefully, start on time because, we had a COVID year. But where do you see the standings wise for the West and the East? Do you still see Milwaukee at the, top three in the East? Do you still see Phoenix top three in the West?
As of right now, because no one, because it's still prior to free agency and the draft, but free agency being the big one, I would say Brooklyn actually might be the top in the East because if they're all healthy, that's a real big monster defeating Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks got uh, an easier path to the finals because, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Giannis because he played great and the team
Yeah.
played great to win that championship. But if you have to face against Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, with an owner who's willing to spend way above luxury tax to build a supporting cast, that is extremely hard to beat. So I think the Nets would be first in the West, being whole
Mm-hmm.
healthy, of course. This is assuming everyone's healthy. After that, I would say the Bucks because they won the championship. Giannis proved he can take a team to the finals and win it for them, despite being down 2-0. So, and
Mm-hmm.
Chris Middleton even showed he can be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say they'd be favorites. They'd be second behind the Nets. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of the West, uh, I don't know. It's a free for all because there's rumors of potentially Kawhi wanting to leave. Mavericks are in contention, are potentially a landing spot, which is my team. And if they land on that, that's instant title contention right there. The Lakers still be there, but LeBron's getting old, so
Klay
that's kind of
Thompson.
yeah. So it's kind of difficult. The Suns, as I said, retain Chris Paul, even build that supporting cast. I think they could be at the top of that pile for contention from the West. And then the Nuggets. They're not going to want to be swept really early in the playoffs. They're going to want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting seeing. The funny thing is, I remember watching Game 7 next in Milwaukee that were in Brooklyn. Kevin Durant was this close. His toe was this far away from hitting a game winner.
Yeah.
Because if he would have hit a three with a tenth of a second left, that would have been game. But it went into overtime because it was ruled a two. But that's crazy because he was out of energy. Like
Yeah. When you're the last star on a team that was built based off three superstars, and you're playing the entirety, I think I remember I don't think he even got a minute of break. There was only one game I saw. Oh, he's played. It's like the game so far is 42 minutes. He's played 41. So he literally got a minute break, but during that game, I don't think he got 1 minute of rest.
Mm-hmm.
And even for a top star like KD, you need some rest to rejuvenate. You can't keep pushing yourself that much unless you've trained to where you can do that. I don't think he trained to that extent, but for a superstar like himself, he needed some rest, and that was very tough for him to carry that team with all those injuries that occurred.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the great ones, they play a lot of minutes. LeBron played a lot of minutes before. Jordan,
Yeah.
Kobe.
So
It's crazy.
yeah, and KD having to play that the entirety of the game, most of the games, because he was the last star. That put a lot of pressure on him, and he can live with the pressure because he was showing it through consistent those like 50 point performances.
Yeah.
But it's the stamina. You
Mhm.
can't. You need some help because to save some energy for the end game.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, everyone, we guess we're about to wrap up another episode of Dream Talk. We discussed the dream games today. We discussed the 3v3 down in Philly, but actually it was Hatboro, my fault. And
Oh
then we
no,
talked
don't worry, we were confused too.
and then Marius and I, we talked about the NBA draft coming up in 2 days, less than 48 hours. And we just talked about next season and, the wrap up of the NBA finals. So thank you again, Marius, for hopping on. It was a pleasure having you discussing
Oh,
all these wonderful topics. And I look forward to talking soon.
oh yeah, I look forward to hopefully being on again and talking. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed having someone who can we can have a lot of talk about and go really in depth on these topics.
All right, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.